It is May the 20th, 2019, episode number 322 of Couch Talk, and I've got Mr. Pablo Gonzalez. How are you?
I'm doing well, CJ. How are you?
I'm very good, dude. I'm very excited. You've already got me inspired hanging out. You got me some Venezuelan food. Explain to the listeners what you got me to eat, because it was delicious.
Yeah, so we started with tequeños.
Okay.
Which are basically...
You're good.
I'm good.
This more towards me.
Which are basically Venezuelan cheese sticks, but I think that's underselling how good they are, right?
They're way better than cheese sticks.
It's more like a wrapped bread kind of croissant around like a soft, semi-moist, coldish cheese. It's really good.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
That was so good.
Yeah,
and it came with some good sauce, but I did like it without sauce as well.
So they serve those at movie theaters in Venezuela.
That's fucking sick.
Yeah, it's like your typical finger food. Then we had a cachapa, which is like yellow cornmeal pancake, kind of like a crepe. That should be wrapped around this like again semi-soft kind of cold cheese that Venezuelans make, called queso de mano, but they didn't have that this time. And then the last thing that we had is what I call a patacón. That is two tostones. That
was so good.
Yeah, and then the inside is carne mechada, which is like the beef roast, right? Like the slow cooked shredded beef that Venezuelans make, that is seasoned in a certain way with like all the fixins that they like to put on that stuff, which is like whatever you'd put on like a loaded burger kind of in Venezuela.
So is it your parents who are from Venezuela, or were you born in Venezuela?
I was born in Venezuela. I was born in Venezuela, but I never lived there, right? Like I left when I was like maybe 2, right? Maybe less than 2.
Why'd you come to America? Why'd your parents do it? Because that's kind of crazy. They have a 2-year-old kid. Like, that's a bold move.
Yeah, I'm the youngest of 3.
Did they already have something there for them?
Yeah. I was the youngest of 3. My dad worked for these guys called the Cisneros family, which is like equating that to like the Rockefellers of the U.S. type stuff. Like probably, I would say like top 40 richest families in the world kind of stuff.
Wow.
And he worked for them. Like he graduated UF, went to work at IBM. These guys had just bought a computer company, and my dad worked his way up to be like their like managing guy, right? Their task executor manager guy. And then they moved us here because of this computer purchase, right? Like this computer company purchase. We moved here to Miami. And then 4 years later, they bought this chain of, like this department store chain, like the Macy's of Spain. And we moved to Spain for almost 5 years.
Whoa, how cool. How old were you?
I lived in Spain from when I was 4 till I was 9.
Oh, man, that would have been cooler if it was like 10 to 15.
Much cooler, right?
Right, you could have done some cool stuff.
I could have been much cooler.
So what do you remember about Spain?
Listen, I've been back now, right? So I studied abroad there. I love Spain.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I studied abroad in Sevilla. We lived in Madrid.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's 2 amazing cities. I now have, as Venezuelans, the direness of the situation over there has essentially led to has led to a mass migration, right? So like everybody of my generation in Venezuela has left. And due to the fact that most of us that had a place to go, it's usually either because they have some kind of closeness to Spanish descent or some kind of like American passport, something like that, right?
Well, what's going on right now is total bullshit because it's just about oil. Dude,
in Venezuela?
Like us going there.
Listen, man, I don't want to. Yeah, all right, let's talk Venezuela.
It's the exact same thing as Iraq.
Yeah.
They're going to make up some BS about them.
Okay. No. Honestly, it is what every Venezuelan wishes would happen.
Really?
100%. I'll tell you right now, every Venezuelan wishes that the U.S. could bail him out of this scenario right fucking now.
Okay, so militarily?
Like they're praying for it. Militarily, yes, 100%. I'll put that out there right now. Every Venezuelan that has been starving on the streets, separated from their family, haven't had to leave Venezuela. You know, like my generation of cousins have mostly migrated due to an opportunity that they had. But there's countless. We put my wife's cousin on a fucking Greyhound bus with his 3 daughters to move to Peru or else they were going to starve to death in Venezuela.
So,
right.
This is why I wanted to have you on.
Yeah.
Perfect. Explain to me everything, like what's going on there, because I obviously don't know.
Yeah. Listen, man, I know way more than the average person, but I don't know as much as the average Venezuelan, right? Like, so I'm going to explain it in a way that most people probably that listen to your podcast are going to learn something new about it, but I'm just throwing it out there. Marta, I know I'm going to misspeak, right? Like, no, for real. Like, this is something I take very, very seriously. It's a very closely emotional thing because we suffer from it today.
Yeah.
Like, I'm personally suffering from the effects of this stuff happening right now.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? My wife, 100-fold, right? Like, people in her family, just very, very, very dire situations. So I don't speak about this lightly in any way.
Yeah.
So what's happening over there is that in like 1999 or 2000, this guy, Hugo Chavez, ran under a supremely populist agenda, right? Totally populist agenda, and because it was a populist agenda, he pandered to the poor, right? Because typical Latin American country, there is, this like 5-10% of haves, and then 90% of have-nots, and the have-nots are way more have-nots than than have-nots here, right? That have a lot of kids and whatever, right? So he ran on this agenda, just like every other populist has ever ran, that's looking for power, and got to, after the everybody, nobody thought he would ever get elected because it was like outlandish things like, we're gonna feed everybody with government money and stuff like that. And people are like, come on, man, like nobody's gonna believe that stuff.
We're gonna build a wall.
Yeah. So exact same tactic and messaging as Donald Trump did in the primary. Like the moment I turned the first Republican debate on at the House, my wife was like, "What the fuck?" Like, I am watching Hugo Chavez run again, right? Like it was her guttural immediate reaction from moment one.
That's insane.
Insane, right?
Yeah.
People don't believe that shit.
It's actually not insane. That's the wrong word.
It's not insane.
I'm not trying to say that she's insane.
No.
I meant insane in like the bro way. Like, dude, that's fucking insane,
bro.
That's
bro.
awesome.
Yeah. I get it.
Dude, awesome.
Yeah. So
that's awesome, bro.
Yeah. So not awesome when it's happening to your country.
Right.
So,
but great foresight.
So I'm just gonna put it out there right now, right? So like, what happened was his first election, he promised a bunch of shit he knew he couldn't deliver, and then by the second election, it was. Guess what? It was the opposition, the little bit of power they have left, not allowing me to do it. Foreshadowing for the next election that's about to happen. Put that down, right? Of course I could have built the wall if it wasn't for the media. If it wasn't for the justice system.
The liberals.
If it wasn't for the but it starts with the liberals and then it goes on to the institutions.
Yeah.
So by the second term, then you start going after the institutions, and then by the time that second term is over, you are praying that your constitution holds true because there's going to be a major challenge to it. That's how it happened. We failed that challenge, right? And everybody thinks they're going to pass that challenge, but it doesn't happen 100%, right? So that's what happens, and systematically, Chavez started consolidating power, right? Like
So this happened in 19 years.
This happened, yeah. It's a whole generation, yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah, 19 years. Venezuela went from a pretty awesome, livable place, like comparable to going to Costa Rica, except more epic, right? Like Venezuela has some of the most incredible natural resources in the world, some of the oldest parts of the planet. It has unbelievably fun, nice. It's like going like how you picture Rio de Janeiro or any kind of super awesome Latin American destination with the most beautiful nature, and it's like closer than New York. It's right there. You know what I'm saying? So like it's like going to Rio de Janeiro, but Rio de Janeiro is like a 9-hour flight, something like that. You know what I'm saying? Or like Brazil or whatever.
How long is the flight? 5 hours?
3 hours.
3 hours.
It's New York. So it goes from being one of the most livable places in the world, like, to, this guy takes over, by the second term, he starts, one of the things I remember him doing the first time, he disarmed the police. So now the military police have the weapons. And, it was like a supposed...
Why did they let him do that? He just could?
Yeah, because, if you blame it on the rules so much, at some point people start letting you break rules.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the populist.
That's the scary thing.
That's what's happening.
Yeah.
Right? Like, look what he's blaming it on the rules. You know what I'm saying? Like that is the populist thing. That is what you want. That's what people want to hear. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what it's like, blaming it on your, people love to not take fault for what they're doing or what they're part of, right? Like it's always stuff isn't going right, it's someone else's fault. So like it's very enabling to be like, yeah, you should be allowed to want a wall in Mexico, and the only reason it's not happening is because these people that don't get it. Not, it's a stupid idea.
Yeah, it's literally they just don't get it. They're trying to ruin the country. They want these people to get in.
Yeah. So anyways, so as this progressed, right? This was 20 years in the making.
Which is not a long time.
Chavez won like 4 elections. By the 4th one, he became this like icon, right? Like did some things like, so all of this was orchestrated like his.
So wait, nothing's gone bad yet.
Correct. So his idol and his mentors.
What year is this? We're talking.
I mean, it starts going bad immediately. Like it's going. What do you mean by going bad? Like constitutional rights are getting taken away. Like they're rewriting the Constitution.
When does it get to the point where people are like, we want the United States military to come save us?
Okay.
So things are not there yet.
No, not even close to there yet. Okay, so if that's your definition of bad, then not even close to that. Right?
Yeah, I'm just trying to the American perspective.
Yeah, I got it. So things aren't super bad yet.
Because I want people to see how bad it really gets.
Yeah, things aren't super bad yet.
What year? 2008.
Oh, when it got really really bad.
No, we're talking right now. What time are you
topple
talking?
my government, please.
No,
bad?
well, no.
About 1.5 years ago.
Okay, but what are you like when you're talking about Hugo and his homeboy?
So right now this is like 2006.
Okay.
Right.
Nice.
My
freshman year, high school.
Yeah. So I think, right? Like I don't know the whole timeline, but
we're feeling
I'm
it.
just talking about
2006
stuff
feels
I remember.
right.
2006, 2007, 2008. Rewrites the Constitution. Starts, people start being allowed to like usurp lands, right? Like my grandfather had this like land, called La Palmita, this like finca.
What's a finca?
Like finca is like a ranch. So it's like a Latin American ranch.
Okay.
Land that he tended to forever, and some people showed up on the land that were like, "Nah, we're allowed to be here. You can't go call the fucking cops." Like the government won't like they will turn their back to like enable that type of stuff. So you start losing rights to your own land.
What the hell?
What by design. You just start stripping people of Maslow hierarchy of needs.
So, like, I'm thinking right now, if we go along this path, our country, how would the government, what would their pitch be to enable usurping lands? People aren't doing anything with their land, and these people are going to come in and create a bunch of industry.
It's called eminent domain. There's a law for this in the U.S. It's called eminent domain. And they just say it's more important for the greater good that we do this. For example, they're about to eminent domain the fuck out of some stuff if they're going to build a wall. Mm-hmm. Right? It has to go through some private land.
True. Yeah.
So that's one way, for example.
Yeah.
So if we're talking about building a wall, you're talking about enforcing eminent domain, which is something that I know most people
are not cool with.
Yeah. Especially the people that want to vote on that side of things.
And
that's how it starts.
Yeah.
It starts with eminent domain. It ends with they take over doesn't end with, but like shit gets really real. They take over the Exxons and the Texacos, right? Like they take over PDVSA, which is like the Venezuelan petroleum company, right? Like the parent company of Citgo.
Mm-hmm.
Big deal. But Venezuela is the 3rd largest exporter of gas in the world, of oil. Was at that time at least.
Yeah.
Venezuela actually invented the way to extract oil. Something I don't want to misspeak here because I'm going to sound like an idiot, right? But like something along the lines of being able to extract oil from water at a much higher rate, so that you're able to drill in different places, right? So big technology. Had at one point the largest offshore oil. What do they call the thing that went down? Oil rig, yeah, oil rig in the world. Now you fast forward to 2011 when I'm going down there to meet up with my wife, right? This is 5 years later. Mm-hmm. That same oil rig sits offshore completely idle. Like it got so they took over so many businesses and it was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna give my cousin a job now. I'm gonna give this guy a job. That the biggest offshore refinery in the world, was just basically abandoned because it was like, well, I don't know how to fix this shit. Like Idiocracy.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, like Idiocracy style.
Jeez Louise, dude.
So I'm down. Yeah. So I'm like, at this point, also street safety, right? Because we're just taking away Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So the police isn't powerful, the military. You can enable. There is a wink, wink, nudge, nudge agreement that you're allowed to rob rich people because the government is enabling the poor under that guise, right? So public safety is an issue, a major issue, right? Like that was 2011. That rig. 2013. And growing up, everybody knew of somebody that knew somebody that got kidnapped. And then at some point, everybody knew of somebody that got kidnapped. And then at some point, a lot of people have been kidnapped / it's like somebody in my family's been kidnapped. You know what I'm saying? So
all ransom.
Yeah, ransom. Yeah, they call it secuestro express. Like it's like this express kidnapping. There's a movie about it, right? Like, do you ever see that Brazilian film City of God?
No.
There's the Venezuelan equivalent of that. It's called Secuestro Express. It's like the story of this express kidnapping kind of thing and how it goes down.
That's so scary.
It's crazy. Like I'm glad that I have a platform to talk about this. I just don't think like American people conceptualize what it is to like how fortunate we are to live in the U.S. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like how like all the stuff that we can count on that we bitch about that like
it's really cool here.
Really get the fuck over it.
It's like really cool.
Yeah, it's awesome here.
I love it. I think it's great. Shout out you. So
yeah, America.
So they're abandoning the biggest oil
Okay,
refinery.
so oil rigs abandoned. This is 2011. Now fast forward to like 2013-ish. As I'm saying that security is getting less and less trustable, right? Like I stopped going down there around 2013 when I was like, it's just too dangerous.
Just personal security.
So personal security, just I won't go. I don't. My grandmother
Dude,
died.
I would kidnap you for sure.
Right?
I can't believe you didn't get kidnapped.
Look at this complexion.
You didn't get kidnapped?
I mean, I don't even look 38, right?
Be real.
Huh?
You didn't get kidnapped?
I didn't get kidnapped.
Damn, dude. I can't believe that. I would have kidnapped you for sure,
as
dude.
enticing
You're so
as
nice.
As I was. Yeah.
You are a very nice looking dude.
I'm a keeper.
You're like, look at him. You can trust him. He is how he looks. He's a good dude. A genuinely good dude.
Somebody told me I look like Marco Rubio.
Dude, I feel like that's underselling. That's underselling it.
Right, but he looks like a good dude.
If Marco Rubio looked like you, he would have won.
I don't know. I think he needs more than that, bro.
Yeah,
I think he probably has to be a smarter.
Well, no. He would have just won over Trump, maybe.
Maybe. I think he would have to. I think he would have to be as nice as me, also, and he's not.
Yeah, I don't think he is.
I don't think he's.
He's a cool dude.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't
think he's a cool dude.
I've never chilled with him.
So
I don't
story.
know. He's never came on Couch Talk.
What I've heard about Marco Rubio, right, and like
MR.
And I'm, I've been flirted. I've been asked by more than one person, like, why don't you run for politics? I'm a campaign organizer. You should think about this. Mm-hmm. What I've heard about Marco Rubio is that in Tallahassee, he was the guy that would, people would do favors for him, and then he wouldn't repay favors. Right, so
that's not what you want.
Yeah, correct. That's what I heard. The underground. That's why the Republican Party never thought that he really had a chance. Anybody in the know in Florida, because of that.
Wow.
Yeah.
They're like, F this dude.
So that being said, still a Cuban guy from Miami, big voter base. Like my family loves Marco. He is spot on immigrant. Like he's the first guy that was like, we should support Venezuela. This is getting worse. This is going to be a American Syria.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And that's what it is, man. Like right now at the borders of multiple borders, like if you're my wife's cousin that we put on a bus past the border of Colombia, the border of Ecuador, and then the border of Peru, right? To get to Peru. Along all those borders, UN guards with refugee camps, like all that stuff is happening in our hemisphere right now because of this. Yeah. That's why people are like, yes, we want a foreign intervention.
Yeah.
Okay,
but what would...
This is more Syria than it is Iraq.
What would it do to help us? Or to not help us? To go in there and have war, dude. It's gonna be drones fucking people up. Civilians dying.
Listen, man, I'm not saying that I'm for or against.
Drones kill 80 to 90% civilians.
Correct. So
think about that number, people.
80 to 90% civilians. That's insane.
That's fucking insane.
Yeah, that's insane.
And we're never gonna stop doing it.
Yeah, that's insane.
Because at the end of the day, people over here are like, well, you're not sending a boy over there to die, which is true.
Mm-hmm. But do you think drones kill 80-90% civilians because it's so far away and so out there? Like, you don't think that if it was happening in our hemisphere, our shit would stink much closer to our nose?
I would,
like,
dude.
I just made up that saying, by the way.
I honestly think that with how nationalistic things have gotten, I think people would seriously be like, our country's doing this. We're righteous.
So that being said, okay, on one side there's that, and on the other side
that's not what I believe.
And on the other side there is my family is starving to death in Venezuela.
Yeah,
so
trust me.
At that point, you're like, yeah, fucking drones, please. I need those drones. I would appreciate those drones.
Dude, I'm just saying.
That's how
then
dire.
Your family could die from drones.
Sure, but it's either that or like a slow death, and some of my family lives. Like that is the equation that Venezuelans are accepting by saying that. They might not conceptualize it like that with war coming in, but here's the other thing: is they're also banking on the fact that the moment a foreign intervention starts, everyone in Venezuela is totally behind it, and this guy's gonna have to fucking quit. Like, well, you know, like this isn't Iraq, bro. Like he doesn't have an army to fight us with. Like this is like finding Bin Laden much more than it is, but in a country that you own. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So like this isn't that. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Okay. So there's no one really to fight us.
There's nobody to fight us.
Oh.
I mean, somebody to fight us.
Yeah.
Nobody to fight us.
Right. It wouldn't be.
Are you worried about half the Cuban army or like a quarter of the Cuban army? I wouldn't be.
No, I'm not.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I get it. It seems like. Okay, so what would we even do militarily then?
I don't know what you do militarily.
Just go over there and establish
except for say we're about to come to fucking town.
We establish a presence.
No, just say we're about to come get you, bro. We're about to declare war if you don't step down and give it to you. By the way, this guy Maduro that's now saying he has now committed. All right, so Chavez, right?
Right.
All this. Oh, okay, so I didn't paint a picture of the instability in 2013 when I decided to stop going down there.
Yes, please.
My mother-in-law goes to her outdoor grocer every Sunday, right? Mother-in-law lives in a upper middle class neighborhood in Caracas, 2013. This is like going to fucking Fresh Market, bro. Right?
Okay.
All
right.
This is this is the Fresh Market of Venezuela.
I like Fresh Market.
Okay. Gang of guys show up, like 5-6 dudes casing the joint. Customers are coming in. They don't want to come out because it's clear that, you know, kidnapping is going down, robbing is going down. They wait for 3 hours with no police response. The son of the grocer, the owner of the grocery store, comes out and goes like, guys, what the fuck are you doing here? Just get the fuck out of here. You're scaring our customers. Please, can you cut us a break? Turns around. They empty a clip in his back. Drive away. Zero consequence.
Just did it.
That's what I mean by public instability, man.
That's so scary, dude.
Yeah, there's no recourse you have to that. Zero. So that's 2013. This guy Chavez, who's the original icon down there, that's the won the original election on the populist thing, he starts getting sick. This guy that was like a fucking bus driver like 3 years prior. Mm-hmm. I don't know if 3 years prior.
Tres.
Nicolás Maduro, who Fidel Castro introduces to Chavez, like they met through Fidel Castro, right? Becomes his second in command.
Oh, boys.
Chavez dies of cancer, only treated on Cuba, like in Cuba. Maduro becomes president. He's a fucking idiot, right? Like Chavez is an evil dude, but a very charismatic evil dude, right? Like Chavez, you know, like Fidel Castro is, for example. Like Fidel Castro obviously is a charismatic fucking dude that is beloved by some of the people that he's hoodwinked, right?
Right.
This guy Maduro is just an asshole. Like he's just an idiot, you know, like typical number 2 henchman becoming the boss. Mm-hmm. So he's not president. Chavez dies right after a re-election, and he died in the term in the Constitution that you should have another election. But they don't have another election. They completely violate the Constitution. Make Maduro president without elections. All sorts of protests. Like like 45 days of just like people in the streets, the army, you know, like kids getting killed, kids getting imprisoned, just riots in the street, like clashes against the police and stuff like that.
Jesus.
Then, you know, fast forward, there's another election in the term that it should happen, and it is very clearly manipulated and cheated on, like tapes of people admitting to it, you know, like
it's classic.
It's just fucking, everything, bro, everything. And this motherfucker's still president. So he finally did something that violated the own constitution that even he wrote and was signed, which was like he delegitimized a Supreme Court justice or something like that. He just like broke the like one thing that now, because of the law, this guy Guaidó is the president by the law, but Maduro is still controlling the country, right? Guaidó is the people's president, and he is by law the president of Venezuela, while this other dude is controlling the army and controlling the power of Venezuela. And Venezuelans are like,
are they at odds with each other?
The two dudes? Yeah. It's like this guy. It's like Kim Jong-il versus fucking like Neo, bro.
So Neo, can he get anything done?
Yeah, he's getting shit done, man. Like the guy's a monster. The guy is unbelievable. Like he has done what two other very charismatic leaders that ended up becoming a political prisoner for 4 years.
Jeez,
and like getting his ass kicked have never been able to accomplish. This guy, by the way, this political prisoner, Harvard graduate.
Jeez,
right? Like,
Louise, dude.
That shit's been happening in Venezuela, bro. You know?
God.
So now this guy's in control of stuff. There was just a national blackout for 12 days without electricity. 12 days without electricity,
They just turned it off?
Not knowing when I don't know.
Yeah, they turned that bit off.
But the formula is go down Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So like if you can't worry about somebody replacing a Supreme Court justice because you're worried about getting kidnapped on the street, then I get to do all this shit without you looking. If you're not worried about, you know, me rewriting the Constitution because you're worried about a home invasion all the time, or like you can't find fucking toilet paper in the supermarket.
Yeah.
Or you don't have electricity.
12 days.
Yeah, like people
here.
walking their dead to the morgue type stuff that the morgue doesn't have power. Like mass deaths, man.
Yeah, 12 days is a long time.
Yeah.
People would lose it here.
You'd lose it anywhere, man. People lost it there.
Yeah.
It was a really dire fucking situation.
Yeah, I'm just trying. People, if you don't understand, like, we could easily be in this position.
I've lost power for 30 days after Hurricane Andrew, but you were prepared for like a natural disaster.
Right.
And it was still chaotic as shit. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't the entire country lost power. You know
How old were you when
it was my city.
When you experienced that?
Andrew? 10, 11.
So boom, yeah. You're like fresh to
Miami. I remember. It's I was 5th grade, so I'd been in Miami for like a year and a half, yeah.
Dang it.
Yeah.
That's so scary.
Yeah, it was terrifying, bro. It's like a train running over your house.
Is that your first hurricane?
Yeah, because for that, Miami hadn't get hit by a hurricane in forever. Like, none of my parents, like, old Cuban friends were like, bro, don't worry, they say fucking hurricane every year, it never happens. Like, while we were like, no, we're freaking out.
It's crazy how many hurricanes happen now. It's a lot.
Yeah, that's because the climate is changing.
Yeah, it's getting gnarly. Yeah, people don't know that.
I'm happy to talk climate change too. I feel like you brought me on to be like the nutty political commentary now.
No, I didn't. I just
because if we're gonna talk climate change, I can go real deep because I was the director of sustainability for a hospital builder for a long time.
Just explain.
I understand climate change.
Let's say I don't believe in climate change. Okay. Why am I wrong?
Sure. Thank you for offering me this opportunity.
Yes.
I think that. Do you agree that we live in a closed ecosystem, right? Like there is, even though there is plenty of abundance on the planet Earth, there is a limit of what is on the planet Earth. Do we agree? So, in general, there is a lifespan for all the stuff that we have available, right? So at the end of the day, thinking as far as sustainability goes and like how to prolong that stuff and your decisions that you make, not a bad thing to add to your decision-making process, right? Just want to encourage that. The parts per million of ozone gases that serve as an insulation for our Earth's atmosphere, right? Like it's what keeps our climate there, right? Like it just, it's like your fucking sweater vest, bro. That like you're like
it holds it in.
It's like your Patagonia sweater vest. You're not really cold, but you're not really hot. So you want to put a little sweater vest on.
Yeah, you just.
It's that delicate. It's that delicate, right?
Sun setting.
That the parts per million of ozone gases. That the more ozone gas, the more you're insulating, right? Have been in the, and I don't know the exact numbers, man, but it's like something about like the 10,000 parts per million range for the last 100 million years, right? Like since there has been life on Earth, right? It's been in that range, fluctuates a little bit here, fluctuates a little bit there. We have an ice age, we have mass extinctions, whatever. But it's been in that range of 10,000 since the Industrial Revolution. 100 years, right? Like I'm talking about 10,000 parts per million with like a variation rate that that changes, for it to go down to 9,000 parts per million, it's like another 100 million years, that type of stuff, right? Like
it doesn't fluctuate.
And I'm not a scientist, I'm not an expert in all the numbers I'm saying, but it's at that scale, right? Since the Industrial Revolution, which has been 100 years, which is, if you're talking about in terms of a day, maybe a millisecond.
Yeah, literally.
Maybe.
Probably not.
Probably less than that, bro.
Yeah.
Probably
Probably 0.000001
milliseconds.
Yeah. Like the smallest.
Yeah, correct. So since that time, those parts per million in the ozone have gone up to 12,000. Now we're nearing 14,000.
Damn.
Something like that, right? Like it's a ridiculous number. So
we're putting stuff out there. It's not good, y'all.
So yeah. Don't quote me on the numbers, but like it's that scale of like radical change, right? Like that something that used to take 20 billion years is taking 100.
Are you watching Chernobyl by any chance?
No, I don't watch that type of stuff, bro. I have enough anxiety going on, man. Like I like to watch comedies.
38 Röntgen.
Yeah. Give me comedies, bro.
It's a great show.
And Game of Thrones. So that's happened, right? And the argument against it is, we have fluctuated this much in the past. Yes, we fluctuated this much in the past, but it hasn't taken 100 years.
Exactly. It
has taken the length of existence to do it, right? So
very, very fast.
So the argument is, our stuff is changing at a faster rate than it ever has before. So let's look at the variables. Since the Industrial Revolution, these parts per million have gone up, right? So that means that you've added to the insulating power of whatever energy the sun puts into the earth. We're insulating more and more of it because of these particles, right? We have also burned down like 2/3 of the world's forests, which, by the way, are the lung that takes those particles and turns them into oxygen.
Yes, we need that.
Right? So
we need that.
So we've insulated by releasing these particles. We've also very, very quickly cut off all the balance mechanisms that used to form to like balance that shit out, which is why it usually takes so long, right? And as the world heats, becomes more insulated and it becomes more insulated because there's less processing and we're releasing more of the insulating particles. So now it retains more of the Earth's power, right? So it's heating, right? Overall. As that happens, there's something called albedo, right? Which is the reflectance of a material, right? Like if you paint a roof white, it reflects a ton. It never gets that hot. If you paint it black, it's hot as fuck, right? Like you can burn yourself. You can cook an egg, whatever.
It's the worst working on a roof.
Right? So Earth has albedo, right? There's a certain amount of like dark colors in it, and there's a certain amount of light colors.
Albedo sounds like an antidepressant.
It sounds like an antidepressant and also like the wanting to have sex.
Libido.
Yeah, I have a really high albedo.
But like, dude, I could easily...
The hotter it gets, the higher the albedo goes.
I could easily see my psychiatrist being like, look, Lexapro's not working. We're going to put you on albedo.
Yeah, agreed.
And I'd be like, okay.
Agreed. If you want to, I guess if you want to heat your body, they should put you on a high albedo.
Whatever they tell you, you're just like,
on a low albedo, sorry. High albedo is high reflectance. So like you are pretty high albedo, by the way.
Highest albedo.
I'm pretty high albedo too. I got to use a lot of sunscreen.
The highest of albedo.
Yeah.
But I do get extremely dark.
Yeah, I don't. I just burn.
Really?
I just burn. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. My genetics, like I did the 23andMe thing, and I'm like 93% Iberian Peninsula. Like I'm just like super Spanish, like pale skin, like very very light.
I'm Native American, Mexican, and then a bunch of white.
Yeah, Native American alone you can tan way better than me, for sure.
Yeah, I think the Native American and the small little Mexican man that was my grandfather and my abuelita and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I think I can get really dark.
Yeah.
I'm just
I can't.
a sad boy and never going outside.
No, I can't. Every dermatologist I go to is like, promise me you're never gonna go in the sun. Promise me right now. And I'm like,
oh, dude, I bet you get a bunch of freckles, huh?
Huh?
Yeah,
I have a bunch of freckles.
Yeah.
And stuff.
Yeah. You're a white boy, dude.
I am, dude. I am.
Fucking white boy.
So back to the albedo.
Yeah, so back
Speaking
to albedo.
of white boy, albedo. Right, so like the poles, right, the South Pole and the North Pole are the regions of the Earth with the highest albedo, right, the highest reflectance. Every time the sun's energy hits it there, it bounces it back out.
Pure white.
Before the ozone insulates it in.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
As those melt, you were absorbing more heat. We're also insulating more heat. And we continue to take away the lungs that process these insulators. So we're in this feedback loop. That is why climate change is happening.
Worse and worse and worse.
Yeah, if you can tell me that everything I said isn't happening, then okay, fine. Then climate change is happening. But if you believe what I just said, and that's facts, right? Like
science.
I'm not talking about politics.
All
there.
that is just some liberal science bullshit.
Yeah, the Industrial Revolution.
Did you do the test? I don't think you did.
The increase in ozone gases that have been astronomically, like the rapid rate of increase has like never been before. The factors that I'm saying of more insulation, less processing engine, less albedo, obviously a feedback cycle that makes it more and more exaggerated. Then if you don't believe any of that stuff, if none of that stuff makes sense to you, then okay, then I can't convince you, bro.
Yeah, whatever, you win.
To me, that's, it has nothing to do with anything else. That's
people just, I don't know. It's a weird. It became a political thing, and it's all what side you're on. And all of a sudden, if you don't believe it and you're on that side, then you're not really on that side. And
yeah, it became tribal.
So, who the hell are you? What do you do, dude? Because
I haven't even gotten there, huh?
No. We had a great conversation thus far. Talked some Venezuela. We talked some climate change. Yeah. Let's talk some Pablo Gonzalez.
All right, cool.
The man who makes up the mind that knows all that shit.
I'm somebody that has been obsessed with human connection his whole life. Funny that we talked about my origin story of Venezuela and whatever, but like I'm the most American person in my family. Right? Like I'm the youngest of three. All of my brother and sister both went to school in Venezuela longer than me. All my cousins are from Venezuela. So I have this like outsider perspective, but it's also like I moved here at 2. I enrolled in preschool. The only kid that didn't speak English. Luckily, I had this kid, Jose Garrido, spoke Spanish. He became my best friend forever.
Hell yeah.
Then I moved to Spain, where I enrolled in a British school. And I thought that I knew English and Spanish at this point, but I didn't understand British or Spanish. Right? So my 2 most formative early memories are like, how am I going to connect? How am I going to communicate with people?
That's so crazy.
Right? And that, I think, is what's driven me to be obsessed with like human connection my entire life.
People don't even think about that. Like when you think about a kid in your class, but go back to kindergarten, little Jorge can't speak English.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh, okay, he's just in it. But like he's in like there's a whole nother person in everybody. Like inside of me, all the shit going on in my head, that's like you're having your experience. Like I feel like people think that you're just like interacting with somebody. People are having like their own world going on amongst each other, and people don't really get that.
There's a really good this guy Dean Grazioni says this really intelligent thing that is, you never start a conversation. You simply just enter a conversation going on in someone's head.
Right.
Because we got to this point of communication through our own like completely infinitely unique path. So the idea that we're thinking the same thing is impossible.
Yeah.
Unless we can somehow talk it out to the point where we have, decoupled all the variables and we think we're on the same page.
Yeah, we're communicating.
And people all the time are just like, why doesn't he understand? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The biggest mistake people make is assuming that the other person that they're speaking to has any idea what you're thinking and the way that you are and what you're about to say and what you mean by what you say.
To assume that is insane.
Yeah.
But okay, so you're trying to figure out how to talk to motherfuckers.
Yeah.
You're like, how do I talk? How do I communicate with people? Like, I don't even know what to say right now.
So I start slanging language at a young age.
Nice. So you're slanging lang.
Legit. So we used to fly back to Venezuela and Miami a couple times a year. And I would ask to sit by myself on the plane. And it was because at one point I sat by myself, started talking to this old dude next to me, ended up buying me a Toblerone.
Oh,
Like,
delicious.
Yeah, so
Delicious.
at that point I was like, if I can make friends with adults, then I can get what I want.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine being like a 50-year-old dude. You're getting on an 8-hour plane ride, pre-in-flight entertainment, and you look and you're like, you see this fucking 7-year-old kid staring up at you like, "What's up, Rumi?"
Hey, dude.
Yeah, what's up?
What's up, dog?
Hey,
What's up, sir?
that was me.
That's cool.
Right? Like, you're either like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna be in hell," or
This could be a cool kid.
or you give it up. Right.
Yeah.
And like by most of the end of those plane flights, somebody was telling my parents like, "Yo, man, what are you doing here? This is amazing."
Yeah. I was an only child,
and-
so like I was kind of always with adults too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I learned that early on, man. I learned that my people skills get me what I want, and it's been the one skill that I have crafted and studied and practiced and formulated theories on and tested those theories and taught people those theories, that I've been doing that shit my whole life. So that's who I am.
So what do you do?
So my goal is to prove to the world that community building is the future of business development. I think we're going to automate very quickly, right? And right now, you and me are having a conversation about microphones. In an hour, who knows? I might get an ad about microphones on Facebook or in my Google's research or whatever. Is it
Every time.
Is it because Alexa's listening? Is it because I'm within a proximity of a guy that's bought a lot of mics? Is it because, whatever? I like
All
your
that.
Instagram post.
It's all of it. All
Who
of it.
knows? But we know it's going to get worse.
It's all of it.
We know it's going to get worse.
Yeah.
We know that
way worse.
the moment that I go, I want microphones, I'm going to get offered in my Google Glass 5 different types of microphones.
Yeah, they're gonna be like, microphones, here you go, dude.
So, in a world where attention and demand is automated completely, how do you keep customers? Right? How are you going to keep your customers, bro? If the moment that I'm like, oh, dude, my tax account, I think he missed this. Oh, you want 7 tax accounts? How are you going to do that?
Mm-hmm.
You build community within your customer base.
Content.
You build community within your customer base. You make it so that your customer base doesn't want to leave you because they're part of something that's not just you, not just your customer, right? It is a foolproof way of customer retention, employee retention. I see now that I'm on this kick, I see some of the best companies in the world doing this type of stuff, right?
Oh yeah, tailor-made golf clubs, dude. They have a podcast. What? They got why would they have a podcast?
Yeah,
because it's a smart thing to do.
Yeah. A podcast or yes. Tell me, continue down the path of podcast.
I was just saying it's a smart thing to do because people are listening to you, especially at first when they first find you. People will go back and listen to your old episodes. They listen to you every day. You're constantly in their head. So whatever you're doing, especially if it's a business, is one going to constantly be being said out loud. So your phone's picking it up, and it's content on it's on people's phone. It's a part of their life. They're listening to it. And the strange thing about podcasts is you're literally in people's ears. So you're when you think about that, you're really speaking to the person's conscious, and you're really connecting with them. So if you're a business, that's the only thing they think. For me, if I'm not into supplements or anything, but if I were to get into it, it would definitely be on it, just because of
fact.
Just because, So it's just the way it is, dude. Once you establish that, you're in people's heads, literally.
Okay. So you're in people's heads, and
what do you mean?
You have the opportunity to reach out to anybody you want and say, right. I'm gonna put you on a stage.
You can do it. The best thing about a podcast, you can do whatever you want. That's the best part. You can literally do whatever you want.
Yeah, but importantly for business development, you can do it to meet interesting people that you would have not had the chance to meet before. Yeah,
but you could do something I think businesses slip where they're okay, we only want to interview people, which for sure, but it wouldn't hurt if you had somebody like you and do solo stuff also to keep content going.
Yeah,
brand
2
ambassador. Episodes a week.
Yeah. 1
episode with a guest, another episode with you, because 1 a week it's good enough, but I just don't think it's really good enough in the long term. People need to be in it. So
I think you're getting too deep into. I agree with you 100%. I think you're going too deep into what will sell why you need to have a podcast, right? Like at this point, you're talking about tactics when you still haven't talked about the benefits that the person receives from it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, you got to do it. You get to, you are, number one, you have the brain of people, right? Like you are inside people's heads constantly, right? Number one. Number two, anytime you want to meet somebody, right? As a business development thing, right? Like partnerships are huge, endorsements are huge, you know, doing deals is big. Anybody that you want to get in front of, you can say, I have this podcast, I want to interview you on this podcast, right? Big way to get in the door with someone.
Yeah, now you're talking to somebody.
Yeah, like if you're a small fry, anybody you meet at a networking event, if you're like, hey man, I want to have you on my podcast, guess what? They're following up. You can follow up with them and you got it.
Oh yeah.
Right? If you're a medium-sized executive and you're like, oh, you know, like I want to put you on my podcast for my company, you can talk to other bigger executives, right? Like if you are a charity and you want to talk to a big-time donor, big-time celebrity, you can use that, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like,
oh yeah.
Right?
It's a perfect way to get your foot in the door.
you can talk to an author that wrote the book on your business. You know what I mean? Like, and put him on your podcast and provide value to people, right? So that's another thing. 3, it can be its own revenue stream.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It can be a revenue stream. So albeit not a lot of podcasts make a ton of money, but it's a revenue stream that also has all these added benefits.
Oh yeah.
Right? That also has you're in people's ears, you build brand loyalty, whatever, right?
Yeah.
So that to me is, you know, it's essentially creating a stage, right? So like if you nurture a community, you then have an audience. If you have an audience, you have a stage. And the most powerful thing that you can give to people is a stage. So it becomes your business development tool to either promote your customers or promote or get in front of whomever you want to get in front of. It continues to be at this point I'm talking about, you know, like a source of information for you, right? Like, and there's a bunch of other stages that you can make, right? Like if, let's say you don't want to do a podcast. Let's say what you do is you take your 6 most important clients, right? You are a financial planner. You look for clientele that has $1 million to $5 million to invest with you. If you take the clientele that you have that invests $10, $15 million with you, and you start doing a once a month or every other week group Zoom call where sometimes you're talking about, hey man, I just read this thing in the Harvard Business Review about brainstorming. Let's try this out, right? Or you talk about like, oh, I'm reading the book Never Split the Difference. These are the things about negotiation I've learned. Let's how can we incorporate better negotiation into our business? Other weeks you're like, hey Harry, I want you to talk about where your business is right now and what you're trying to achieve, and we're just going to go around the table like giving you advice. Right? Like, oh, I'm having a hard time hiring people. Oh, okay, well, when I had a hard time hiring people, you create this community, you record all these calls, you now have them constantly interacting with you and all you are is the moderator, right? Like, that's an easy way to form community. You record these calls, you get these people talking about genius things, you'll be like, hey, man, is this how your business goes? Are you having problems with that? I'm his financial advisor because I help him with stuff like that. I can be yours. Right?
Boom.
Like that's you start generating sick marketing material in the earpiece, right? Yeah. While you have created this group of customers that are, after a couple months of sharing vulnerabilities, people bond, right?
Oh yeah.
And providing each other value, people bond. So within a couple months, oh, we're doing our Panama Panama. Like my name is Pablo Gonzalez, financial advisor. We're doing the financial advisor retreat, VIP retreat. And, you know, you charge these guys like $1,000 to come down to Panama and like spend 3 days like playing golf and, you know,
fun.
and doing that. And then like you do a SWOT analysis with everybody. You bring in a speaker that you want, something, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
Then after that, you get those 6 guys that went to, or whatever, the people that went to Panama, and 6 months later, you do another event now for all of your clients and any prospective client, where the guys that have been learning these things in their business through you, it's going to be your best, Pablo Gonzalez's best practices in business and financial investments, right? And now your guys are presenting, looking like industry experts and presenting to other people lessons learned that they learned through your platform, right? So you're making money off of events. You now have a lead generation, right? Like anybody that comes in that wants to be, everybody's looking for a $1 to $5 million financial investment guys, right? So it's like, okay, well, yeah, I do everything everybody does, but by the way, like, if you're with me a certain amount of time, this is this group that I hand select that becomes part, it becomes this like cool club at the top of your customer base, and people strive to move up the customer ladder to try to get there, and it creates brand identity, it creates stickiness, right? Like, that's another stage you can create for people, right? So like this type of stuff, making podcasts for people, stages, what we did at the Emerge Americas show, where we took a trade show booth and turned it into a podcast recording studio, video recording studio, for this conference that wants to make a media play. Interviewed 45 founders and CEOs in 2 days with these like 15, 20-minute interviews. Then turned around and gave everybody we interviewed a 1.5 to 2 minute sizzle reel of what they said.
Perfect.
In a branded background of the event with subtitles that say their name and their company and like my story and inspiration and stuff like that. Those people are all started sharing it, right? Boom. Obviously.
Of course.
I've started sharing that and tagging them. And so like all these people are like resharing and tagging, and I'm like writing the backstory of each one. Like I've dripped out like 11 of the 45 on LinkedIn over the last like 10 days.
LinkedIn's popping,
and it's popping, right? You see Gary Vee going hard at LinkedIn.
I don't do LinkedIn, but I know.
I started doing LinkedIn because I know Gary Vee is now going hard at LinkedIn, and everything that Gary Vee does is brilliant. So
yeah.
I'm just gonna copy what he does as opposed to just what he says. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's my company's called Connect with Pablo, man. It's my superpower is finding these win-win things, but what we do is that we create a stage for our customers to showcase their customers, create a feedback mechanism, marketing material, and income stream out of it. And, you now have a community that you have at the top of your value ladder.
Yeah, dude.
Right?
That's a brilliant idea.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Thanks, man. So that's what I did at this last place that I was at.
You're like you're creating something basically.
Yeah. So like the concept of a mastermind is pretty normal, but people just like to join masterminds. The thing is, everybody could have their own mastermind within their company. And it's just like, what stops you from doing it? Well, it's, I don't want to think about what we're going to talk about. Fine, pay me to do it for you. Like very low cost, right? It's $500 a month is nothing to you to create this value that's going to happen over the year. But for me, I can do it at scale. And I've done it before, and I know the keys of how to do it, right? Like I've done this now like 3 different times in different scales. So that's the basic product, and I want to get booked on stages to talk more and more about how the future of business development is community creation.
So your big goal is to be basically going and being like the keynote at networking events. South by Southwest.
Keynote.
TED Talk. Emerge.
Emerges, for sure.
That's so cool, dude.
Yeah. I was just talking to these ladies that.
What sparked this idea? Because it's precise now.
It's very precise now.
So when did you decide to plot the precision, as they say?
I decided, CJ,
decisions,
to purposefully not think about my path and think about where I want to end up.
Righteous.
And then I've just been hacking away towards that place at all times. Right? So at first I think my speech about networking, right? I told when I left my last business venture, I told myself that I was going to give myself a 90-day purposeful pause to think about the destination.
I like that.
And then reverse engineer it. I booked these 4 conferences to go to because a couple of things. One, I knew that I was going to be in a pit of anxiety and like purposeful non-action and not like getting a job and not like trying to figure out how to make money right now. You know what I mean? So I wanted to be occupied and have stuff to look forward to. 2, players got to play, ballers got to ball, right? Like I'm happiest when I'm talking to people, right?
True.
So like going to conferences, getting to know everybody, like I wanted to be interacting with as many people as I could possible while, like doing my thing, doing what I do best, getting to know people and getting them to like me and getting them to open up to me, right? And 3, because all the things that I was exploring at the time, it had some overlapping things of like customers and whatever that I could find there, right? Like I was already, as soon as I left this last thing, a buddy of mine in Panama was like, oh, I could really use a business development guy for my digital marketing stuff. So like I was like, I can get him customers there. A couple different, reasons, right? As I went to the first one, I realized that I make way more connections at a conference than the average person, right? Like I see the average person making like 3 to 4 connections a day. I make like 12 to 15 a day, right? Like legit connections. And as I'm headed to the second one, I'm like, you know what my dream destination would be is to be the male Oprah, bro. Like why not?
Okay, yeah.
Why not
Oprah.
put it out there, dude? I want to be Lewis Howes, right? Like, and to me, my thing has always been, I've been obsessed with relationship building and, like all that stuff, right? Like that's been my thing that I have studied forever. And the reason why I've gotten anywhere in life, right? Like I very recently had to come to terms with accepting the fact that I was ashamed of my work ethic for a really, really long time. But now I have given myself license to believe that I just devoted my work into this craft of relationship building and people skills, right? That was what I was working on. The stuff that I wasn't working on just didn't really matter as much to me, but I do have work ethic, right? Like I have figured that out. That's in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
So recent, late 30s.
Figured it out.
Figured it out.
You got it.
I'm 38 now. I'm a grown up.
You're good, dude.
Yeah.
You got to figure it out. You're good.
So
You made it.
I'm like, all right, man. If I can, before I left Miami, right? Like I got successful in Miami because I got involved in the community, joined these like not young professional groups. Like I told you that I want to start here in Jacksonville at Habitat, which then ascended me up the ladder of community access and hookups and whatever, because people that are involved with nonprofits are generally either like the super bleeding heart people that have nothing, or they're like the most successful people in town. Right? That have the time to be involved in stuff and have the ability to look around and be like, what else can I do? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's exactly what it is.
for sure. So all good people.
Yeah,
exactly
like who you want to
people
be
that
around.
love doing stuff for others and people that have the access to everything that you ever wanted.
High morality.
Yeah, and high morality. Correct. So by the time I left Miami, I was on the board of like 3 charities, and I was on route to be on the board of like the Economic Development Agency of Miami. So before I left, I had this like TED Talk, like my TED Talk, right? I invited people. I made like an invitation of me like jumping off this thing in a Guayabera.
Oh, wow.
And it was like PG storytelling, invite to like my goodbye party kind of thing, where I had my charities all get up and talk, so that in front of all my audience, just like, hey, pitch, like you're going to be losing a board member, see if you can recruit one out of my friends.
Yeah.
And then I gave this like 20-minute talk about why I think everybody should network, like how to do it on a basic level, and then tips and tricks of somebody that's been like doing it obsessively forever, right? So I'm like, all right, that speech could work at these conferences, because these like online entrepreneurs that go to these conferences, they're meeting 5-6 people. I'm meeting 15. If I can just teach them how to meet 3 to 5 more people a day,
Yeah.
that's super valuable to them, right?
Yeah.
Like you go to conferences, and if you learn like 1 or 2 things in content that you go home and implement, that's a really good conference for you. But if you meet one person that gives you the specific connection you need, or the piece of the puzzle that you've been looking for, you can 100x your life in a year based off one connection at a conference, right? It's a Black Swan event, right? Yeah. We talked about that on the Yellowbird podcast, the Black Swan event, right? Yeah. So I'm like, all right, there's a product here, right? So as I start doing it, I'm like, what else I'm going to do is I'm going to keep track of everybody that I'm meeting, and then I'm going to call them up afterwards and do like a video call and do like people of the Capcom conference, people of whatever conference. So I start pitching this at the second conference I go to, and people are like, oh, this is brilliant. Yeah, this is needed. Like somebody needs to like be the steward of people talking to each other, so it's not like a middle school fucking dance around here.
Yeah.
But the conference organizers didn't really see it. So then I go to the conference organizers I talked to directly after that. Like I came home from like 3 days of everybody be like, yeah, this is genius. Like, you're the man, to doing my interviews and then starting to talk to conference organizers, which didn't really see it. Right. So I'm like, okay, I'm still, then I go to the 10X conference, which was the third conference I went to in Miami. And there I take something away from the content. There's one guy this guy Pete Vargas talks about monetizing stages, and he talks about the different levels of what's a stage and how to monetize it. And that was just like,
I gotcha.
Everything came together.
That was the one.
Everything came together for me, because then I realized, well, I didn't realize to this, right? Like I thought that everything came together for me at that time, because what he taught me was I can try to go get booked to speak, but I have to have a way to capture the information from the audience and then sell them some shit from stage without selling them, right? And that made sense to me, right? That's when I was like, okay, I need to work on like a little book or like a online course about networking. I'm still thinking it's only networking what I'm talking about, right? But it's really just building relationships and the value of that. So I start working on that. I go to Funnel Hacking Live, which was the best one out of the 4 I went to. It was sick. And there I meet everybody that gives me all the information I need to know of like how to execute on like making my own little book and making my own little online course and doing digital summits and stuff like that.
Yeah, getting out.
So there I networked the hell out of that. I got everything I needed from that. Was great. I got great stuff from the content, and I got great stuff from the people. And then I started getting invited on, like, this is like my 10th or 11th podcast I've done in the last like 2 months, right?
Hell
like
yeah. Podcast,
so,
man.
Yeah. Like I love this, right? Like
it's fun.
Yeah. So, man, at that point, I came home and I was all set to like do this course and execute on this. And these 2 opportunities come knocking. One is to, like, it's like a national membership director of this company that what they do is they make masterminds, right? Like they make masterminds. And it's like you pay like $600 a month and you get to be part of a group like what I'm talking about, producing for people inside companies, right? Which, by the way, is brilliant, right? Like the guys are incredible. Like I literally want to be best friends with them. I'm still in touch with one of them, trying to be his best friend.
Hell yeah.
Jerry, I'm sending this to you. I want to be best friends. And I go through a couple, so they're looking for someone. I get recommended to that. I'm super interested in that opportunity. Then a medical marijuana company that these guys, so this is like a family office that owns this like insurance business. The next generation guy that's like my age is in, and he is betting hard at the future of medical marijuana, which I think is pretty
smart,
very smart, right?
Yeah, he gets it.
Cannabis, right? Like, so I guess in the first round of licenses, they buy one here in Florida. But then they go down from 10 to 6, so they flip it and make a little bit of money and buy a license out in California. And then since then, all they've been doing is tackling the opioid crisis, right? Like super big shit. Like right, they're making a pharma play, which is brilliant, by doing a AM and PM discomfort relief vape product and pill product, right? Like just as somebody walks in the door to a dispensary and doesn't know what a train wreck sativa is, but they know that AM discomfort relief means like my pain will go away and I'm not going to be drowsy, right?
Yeah.
So really good product, really intelligent. And I come in and I'm just like, listen, man, if you guys want to promote, they're trying to sell to like my dad, right? Like a baby boomer that's on all this other medication that wouldn't consider cannabis because they think it's weed.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Like, how do you convince that person that this is way better for you, right?
Yeah, it sucks because they don't believe it.
So I pitch him on deploy me on every cannabis conference. I'll meet the most intelligent people in the room, the most compelling people in the room, and we make this like YouTube content, right? They're like the people of the blah, blah, blah conference. We do that for every cannabis conference.
Yes.
And they're like, genius,
yeah.
Right? Like they're like, they said something that like made me feel like I was just in the right place where the good Lord wanted me. The guy, I sit with him and he goes, I saw on your resume that you're a rush chair, and it made me think that you'd be good for this job. Because what they want is like a good networker to go to conference and figure out what's going on in the industry. And I was like, dude, if you want a rush chair, I'm like the...
What's a rush chair?
So in a fraternity, the recruiting is called rush.
Oh, yeah.
So the person that coordinates rush is like the master guy picker-upper. Right?
Okay,
and I was that for my fraternity.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
so you're the guy at the table.
I'm the guy that's walking around coordinating every guy that's talking to all these other guys.
Gotcha.
And like trying to make them like be as compelling as possible to all these people to make us look cool, to get people to buy in on our bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, the master puppeteer of like of a group of 60 guys, right?
The evilest dude.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
The recruiter,
Yeah.
So I was like, dude, I'm the most that ever.
Yeah, I got you.
I
got you.
I am. So he loves the idea, and they fly me out to this scientific cannabis conference, and it goes awesome, right? Like
I'm sure.
I literally came home with like 38 new best friends in the industry of cannabis. From like I immediately got in the cool club, right? Like I immediately met like the guy that was the father of the strain for Charlotte's Web. Because I met this dude that was like a super cool surfer guy from Huntington Beach, that was a lab services salesperson, but also had been growing for a really long time. So he'd just been in the community forever, and he knew everybody top to bottom.
Yeah.
So it was awesome. Like it was a really cool experience. I found that cannabis, just like when I got into green building, right? I got into green building like right after green building conferences went from being dudes in Birkenstocks and like alpaca sweater cardigans to like dudes in suits overnight, right? And I found, and what happened was there was a bunch of very loud activists and very intelligent scientists saying this is the solution the world needs for a lot of what it's ailing, and the best way to go about business. Why aren't you doing this right now? For green building.
Right.
And they didn't understand why the public wasn't paying attention. And then somebody figured out how to translate it. And then it went like fire, right? This organization called the USGBC created this like point system so that you could judge how green buildings are and blah, blah, blah. And every point that explains how, whatever. They gave it a Rosetta Stone.
Yeah.
And I think that's exactly where cannabis is right now, right? Ton of like compelling stories of like human good things happening. A bunch of scientists and doctors saying, guys, this is less harmful than the option on the table. It's better for the world. Like, you know, this can help a lot of people, right? Opioid crisis.
Yeah.
Like,
big deal.
Yeah.
The opioid crisis is insane.
So came back.
It's destroying people.
It's insane. It's insane. Yeah. And you can make it better through legalizing cannabis.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
Like, for sure. So come back from this conference, it went really well, and then like one of their latest formulations of one of their products had like a glitch, and that went away, right? Still interested in these guys. Like I'm still trying to keep the relationship, and so I kind of like hit this like hit of momentum, and then I started getting on all these podcasts. I can't tell you the moment that it all hit me really, really perfectly, right? But like this concept of the stage is something that is what I have been doing, right? Like I went through this. All right, you know what? I went through this. I got to give this dude credit. I went through this defining your purpose for your business kind of workshop.
It's 2.
What? It's 2 right now?
2.
Okay. Let me text. Can we take a break? And well, I'll finish the story, right? I went through this like defining the purpose of what you do for your business, with this guy that I met at Funnel Hacking Live, and that led me down a path to say that I should be doing more masterminds, right? Like, but I didn't still figure out what that meant, right? He was like the ideal thing for you to be doing is masterminds. So I got to give Nick credit.
Shout out Nick.
Yeah, shout out to Nick, man. I'm gonna send this to you. For being the first person that led me down the path that made it very obvious that this is what I need to be doing. Since then, we created this win-win thing at this Emerge conference, right? And since then, I gave it. So Yellowbird is having this like speak event.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what, man? I need to talk about the power of the stage, bro. Because all this stuff, the reason, my story arc of how I got to here is in 2009, I come back to Miami to start a green building company. 2 years later, it gets acquired by my biggest customer, a hospital builder, public projects builder, right? Like university builder. I'm director of sustainability. Within 2 years, I figured out the sustainability program. I was working like 10, 15 hours a week, doing whatever I wanted, scratching my balls, right? Like, because it was all figured out. So at this point, I didn't have enough supervision because I was on my own. They just hired me to solve a problem. As long as the problem is solved, whatever. But intuitively, you know that at some point, like you need to be bringing more value to a company than it's already solved. Just keep paying me.
Yeah, you got to do something.
You know. So at the point, you know, I had started this Habitat Young Professionals group, like I told you in Miami. I got on the board of all these charities. At one point, the president of the company got invited to be on this like smart cities panel, right? Didn't want to do it. I don't know if it's because he was uncomfortable on stage or because he thinks he's too cool. Whatever. They sent me. I share the stage. This is at the Beacon Council, the Economic Development Agency of Miami. I share the stage with like the global head of innovation for Cisco, and like the head of smart cities initiative for like the World Bank, and Pablo Gonzalez, director of sustainability for OHL.
Jesus.
Right. By the way, yeah. And panel discussion, right? I'm just up there spitting what I know, bro. Energy efficiency in buildings and the good that is to humanity to build green and how it ties to the electrical system. Maybe. I don't know about like smart transformers. I don't know about like income inequality, how it's affected. You know what I mean? Like that's what these guys are doing. At the end of that, I get off the stage and I have like 4 people in a row to talk to me, like in a line, just like like I'm a celebrity signing autographs. And I'm like, okay, this has never happened to me before. I'm like 32 at this time.
You're feeling awesome.
I'm like, this has never happened before. One of them, one of them's a vendor, right? One is a guy not much younger than me, who was just like, dude, I'm super into green. Like, I'm just here. I'm an insurance guy, but like, I really respect what you said. Whatever. I've become friends with that guy. I'm still good friends with that guy. Well, Beckham, I love that guy, right? It added a good friend to my life.
That's super cool.
Yeah. Another guy was a developer that wanted to hire me.
Whoa.
And another guy was a developer with a project. So I brought in the developer with a project and then used the developer that wanted to hire me to get more money out of my company, and then got my wife a job with him.
Boom. Perfect.
The guy was a scumbag. It was a terrible experience for my wife, but like it was clear the value that the stage brought me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That dude could have not been an asshole.
Yeah.
He could have been a cool
correct.
dude.
It still brought me all these other things, right? But like, so that's number one, dawning of power of the stage. So then I'm like, okay, if the stage is so powerful, how can I give this power to others? How do I add more value to my company? I started reaching out to developers that were building interesting projects and being like, listen, I want to have this event for the young professionals of Miami where I'm going to interview you about your project because it's transit-oriented development. And you're going to be on stage with a politician on the board of one of my charities and a land use attorney that you want to know to talk about what transit-oriented development means. Started becoming a business developer, right? Like, yeah. That started bringing in the money, right? So like now I'm super valuable to my company. Then I decide that I want to, all right, let's pause right here.
Okay. Pause.
Let me just text my wife.
All right. We took a break and we are back. How's everybody doing? Great conversation thus far. We've gone through the first 2/3 of your life.
2/3 of what formed this company.
What formed this company.
Yeah.
Cap it off.
Yeah. So I'm figuring out the power of the stage. I harnessed it in community building to construction, business development, right? I then, decide I want to try something different, right? Like I look around. I just talked about how I clearly believe in climate change, right?
Right.
Because of that, there is something.
Being from Miami, that's holding
it's a big
close.
Deal. Yeah, it's a big deal, right?
Big deal.
Miami, is agreed that is going to be the real crucible of testing our resilience to climate change in the first world, right?
Yeah.
It's going to experience things that are going to like climate change related that are going to change the game for it sooner than everybody else is going to experience things that are going to change the game for it, right? And I believe that this stuff, the question is in how long, right? I believe that we're going to start believing it from what's happening in Miami within the next 20 to 25 years, right? And I don't mean it's water world, right? Like I just mean the aquifer is going to get salinated. It's going to be very expensive. Some septic systems are going to fail. That's going to be expensive, right? Then infrastructure will start failing. Miami's already the place that has the highest discrepancy between wage and cost of living in the United States, right?
Damn.
A very third worldy statistic.
Damn, dude, that's horrible.
Yeah. So I think that there's a good chance that the rising cost of infrastructure based on and by the way, what Miami sells is this like awesome city that is this like world-class city that's really not that expensive, right? It's expensive to everybody else outside of New York, San Francisco, whatever, but like it's really, really expensive for its own residents, So I think that that's going to affect things, right? Like, and I think that if my value as the head of construction sales guy is that I know everybody in Miami and I do already, then I'm inevitably at a plateau anyways, right? So why not take a shot?
Yeah.
So I joined the software company up here, and when I joined on board, I didn't realize, like I did it under the guise that we were going to do these events for business development. I pitched them the whole like community creation, business development thing. It was awesome. We were going to do it through events. Very quickly, because this software was going to pivot to do this new stuff, very quickly realized that he had been promising this pivot to software to do all this stuff for too long of a time, and it had never really happened. He had like 2 or 3 messy divorces from like high level, like clients, affiliates, employees, and the software wasn't really working correctly, right? In a business that he was trying to like pivot out of. So he knew it was a dying business. So we went from like 500 users to 300 users in the first like 2 months. And it was like on me to figure out how to like, pivot out of this, right? Like rescue out of this. So I took over. One of the things that we had that was valuable that I knew I could help with, I couldn't help with the software, I couldn't help with whatever, right? But like I did help with the software. I found the team that ended up fixing the software and talked him into getting over it.
It's crazy.
But I took this, like, he had this like mastermind group that had like, joined up that was already showing dissent and was falling apart, right? And so what I did is I took them, I invited like another 10 people, right? Like the 10 other most successful clients in the software base, and did exactly what I just told you, right? Like every other week there's a call where I'm either presenting to them something that we can brainstorm on, or we are dealing with somebody's pain point in their business and everybody talking about it, right? Within a couple months, event in Panama. I'm not, this is a true story, right? Event in Panama where number one, we learn a ton about how to make our own business better.
Okay.
Right. And number two, we learn a ton about what each person does that's good and gain that value. And they all love it. Right. Like and we get to pay for the CEO just wanted to have a 40th birthday with his clients. Right. Like that was the trip of the party. We had 3 fucking party days in Panama. It was awesome.
That's so fun.
It was sick.
That is so sick.
6 months later, talked 8 of them into coming down to Jacksonville to present on what they had learned.
Yeah.
To the rest of the customer base, to which before I left the company, we had sold like 25 tickets. I think we ended up selling close to like mid 30s, right?
Nice.
Of people there. So income stream. And then out of those people, a certain amount of them decided to pay an extra amount of money to be part of this club going forward, right? This
Very cool
club at the top of the customer base. Yeah. Plus, I think he used it to unveil like a new software, whatever. Essentially created about $150,000 worth of revenue based on this initiative, which is nothing, which is just making people friends with each other.
Yeah, yeah.
So like, I know how to do that, right? Like I've done it in construction. I've done it in
It's like a modern day version of like the account guy on Mad Men, where you take him out and you hook people up.
Yeah, correct. It's the connector guy, right? Like, listen, I already bought the domain chiefexecutiveconnector.com. That's what I call myself. I'm the chief executive connector of Connect with Pablo. Mm-hmm. But my TED talk is going to be every company needs a chief executive connector, because the future of business development in an automated world is community creation.
It's true.
So like I'm just proving that thesis over and over, man. And like I have yet to talk to a business that has a regular clientele that involves business owners where I can't give them a solution that creates a total win-win for everybody, that I can execute at a low cost in relation to what the value of it all is. And, so I guess I'm a business consultant, but it's all based around, can you create a little community? If you can use that community to be an audience, it's a stage. You can use that stage to enhance your reputation, bring them up, bring inordinate value to people. And then out of that value you give to people, you get marketing material. You get closeness to the customer that provides feedback to you all the time so that you know how to make your product better. You get, this like pool of people that you can do events around. And you get that like cool club at the top of your customer base. You know what I'm saying? Like it's all these things that happen. It creates stickiness, brand loyalty.
Yeah, people are involved.
Yeah, correct.
They're invested in it.
Different products, right? Like so I'm helping people with that, man. And it doesn't cost a lot of money to pay me a little bit to do it, while I do it for you monthly for like, and then if I can get like 5 of those customers, then I can chase other big deal collaborations, right?
Yeah, dude. That's an awesome way to do it.
Yeah, which is what I think you should do with podcasting. Like I think you are doing that. You this is a stage that you have created, right? Mm-hmm. And you can create this stage for companies all day long. And you have all the background stuff that they need. You have the value for it. You can be a contractor to marketing departments and just be like, let me be your podcast producer. All you got to do is show up and talk to your people, right?
Yeah.
Like I do everything else, and you can take on 5 clients like that.
Yeah,
and do all the scrubbing, do all the editing. That's super valuable, man.
Yeah.
That's like most people will pay a marketing department to do that. Like you could probably do it for people for $1,000 a month for 4 episodes a month.
Yeah.
And you can do that for 10 people.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And they're your nuts covered. Now you can build a business however you want. You can continue to build your podcast. You can advertise to it. You can do all your things.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel, how would I like approach them about that? Just do it.
Go network, bro. Come with me, man. Like you're already going to be my podcast guy, right? Like,
yeah, true.
So what first happens is you create this mastermind, right?
Mm.
Now they're capturing all these like golden nuggets of their customers saying things intelligently, right? Now you can start using that to create a digital marketing strategy. I have a digital marketing company, right? So like I can edit this stuff for you and chop it up and send it out to Google AdWords and Facebook videos and whatever with the right targeting for you. That's an upsell. Do you want to also have included in this a podcast so that the people that you have in your community, you're also featuring on your podcast, and you have a way to reach out to other business people to have on your podcast? I got a guy for that. That's an extra $1,000 a month.
Yeah. Yeah.
Make relationships like that. Make relationships with me. Make relationships with marketing agencies that wanna offer a podcast as a service to a client. That's how you blow up your business.
Yeah, it's crazy. I was just like,
go talk to bold brands, bro.
I was just listening to Joey Diaz's podcast, and he was like, "You gotta want." It might have been Rogan. I don't know, but it was like you gotta want it. You know what I mean? And like, you got to actually try. Like, if this is what you want to do, whatever you do want to do, you really do got to try. And I was like trying to, like, I've been thinking, because I listened to it last night, and I was thinking like, okay, what am I going to do? And I went with all the easy ideas, but I like this way better. Yeah.
At least to start, man.
Yeah. Well, hey, great conversation. Fun time. Where can people find you?
I got a website, connectwithpablo.com.
Boom, boom.
Since I want you to subscribe to my email list, right?
Boom.
I will send you, if you subscribe to my email list, I'm going to send you my worksheet on how to introduce yourself to people so that when you walk into like a networking space, you don't feel like the ogre walking around that nobody knows. Just makes it real easy to start a conversation, get comfortable when you go out there to make relationships, right?
Yeah.
Also, because I'm super vain, I want you to follow me on PG Storytelling.
Fuck yeah.
That's PG, like parental guidance suggested, but it's not.
Pablo Gonzalez.
PG Storytelling on Instagram. That's
100 days of surf.
200 days.
200 days of surf.
I'm at 90. Today was 96 or 97 or 95. So I'm not gonna make it in a year because I started in July, but I'm still gonna chronicle my first 200 days of surf.
Yeah.
When I was living in Miami, my goal was to surf 15 times a year. I have now surfed 95 days since July. So,
boom.
6 years of surfing in Miami. Like, I'm so happy.
That's awesome.
I'm so happy to be in Jacksonville. I love it here, man. I really love this place.
Yeah, I love Jacksonville too, dude. I'm not going anywhere.
I think it's a good buy, man. Like, I think this is Orange County 40 years ago, dude. I love this spot.
I love this place.
Yeah. So you're going to find me around town, Jacksonville, y'all.
Yeah,
you can find me at Hannah Park, son.
Hannah Park,
like the poles, bro. I go to Hannah Park almost every morning to either run or surf. And I love that little community out there.
It's sick.
It's a beautiful park, man. It's a
Jacksonville's
jewel.
sick, dude. People just sleep on it. They don't like it.
Yeah, people don't realize that there's not a lot of places that you can have city and connections to wide open spaces at the same time.
And
that's pretty
so much cool terrain. Dude, it's great.
Yeah. Like that's the beauty of LA. The thing is LA has topography, so it's on top of you. Right? Like here, you don't have topography, so it's flat, but there are all these beautiful open spaces you can get out in the middle of your work week. Like not a lot of people live like that, plus have the urbanness of Jacksonville, what it has.
Well, great conversation, dude. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, dude.
Fun time. If you'd like to help support the show, patreon.com/DJ Couch Talk. You can do $1 once, $1 a month, $5, any amount of money, any amount of times. Patreon.com/DJ Couch Talk.
Can I say something in your outroll right now?
Yeah.
Guys, CJ is asking me for gas money. Like, give him like $5 gas money, dude. Like, just ask.
$5.
Ask, bro. Worth it, right? Like,
worth it.
This guy's awesome. I'm super great. Listen, man, I'm super grateful that you had me on. Like, it's
awesome.
It's a privilege to like have your audience, and I think that the value that you put out is huge. So like, hook up CJ with $5 of gas, a $15 lunch. Like, don't think small this month. Your boy needs it. All right, just be honest, right? Be
I don't
vulnerable.
start my job till June 10th.
Yeah, be vulnerable, man.
Patreon.com/CJ Couch Talk. You can follow me on Instagram at CJ Couch Talk. If you have any questions, comments, insults, or like to be a guest, CJCouchTalk@gmail.com. That's it. I'm going to hit you with this outro, Pablo. Once again, thank you very much. Fun time. All right, here we go. Outro. Bye. Love you.
There's nothing that you want that you don't have right now, is there, really? I mean, you don't think about things like that, do you? You don't want a sailboat.
What I'm missing now is more privacy than I'd like. I would like to be alone more than I am. Like the phone rings too often. There's too many cameras and all that, and I kind of accept it, but it's not me. When these things are gone, I go back to the room and I become myself again. Oftentimes, I'll pull down all the shades like I used to, and just lay down in a room for 5 or 6 hours just alone. Just lay in that bed and get something back, some kind of juice. Just being away from people is one of the most marvelous fulfillments a man like me can have. Just the absence of humanity is a fulfillment so graceful that even God would understand if he invented them. He probably didn't.
All right, everybody. Ending words of wisdom for episode number 322, brought to you by Charles Bukowski. The thoughts of him being alone, what he likes to think about, what it is to be alone. What a great episode. Episode 322 was with Mr. Pablo Gonzalez. He's an awesome dude. He crushed it. It was so much fun. I learned I learned a lot about Venezuela. It was just such a good conversation. I learned a lot about like connecting with people. It's just, that was one of the better conversations I've had in a while. I barely even talked. I just sat there and listened and took it all in, and it was a really good conversation. Thank you so much, Pablo, for being such a great guest. If you would like to be a great listener, please go to patreon.com/CJCouchTalk and hit that donate button. You can hit $1 once, $1 a month, however you want to do it. It is patreon.com/CJCouchTalk. I don't start my new job till June 10th, so I'm really struggling, so if you could help me out, that'd be really cool. Patreon.com/CJCouchTalk. You can also follow me on Instagram. It is at CJCouchTalk. And if you have any questions, comments, insults, or would like to be a guest, it is cjcouchtalk@gmail.com. If you are just an audio listener, you will notice that I switched it up and created a new intro. Trying to try some stuff out using the same intro that Bluff God made for me. This beat is also brought to you by Bluff God. He made the intro and the outro beat. He's very talented. Check him out at BLUFFGAWD. I'm trying to do some new stuff here, but just please help support the show. You know, if just follow it on YouTube or subscribe on YouTube, however you want to do it. I do smoke breaks on there. Like if you're an audio person only, you're missing smoke breaks. I just did one with Easy where we go out on my back porch, we smoke, talk, have a great conversation. They're always fun. Everybody loves them. I also do solo smoke breaks. So check that out over at YouTube. Just search CJ Couch Talk, however you want to do it. How do you spell CJ Couch Talk? It's real simple, easy. Really? I mean, it's real simple, really. C is in Christ. J is in Jesus. C is in Christ. O is in ostrich. C is in... Wait, what? The beat just switched up and it fucked me up. Let's restart. C is in Christ. J is in Jesus. C is in Christ. O is in ostrich. U is in uranium. C is in Christ. H is in horses. T is in tantalizing. A is in ass. L is in labia. K is in kaboom at gmail.com. That is CJ Couch Talk. Why am I unable to spell that right now? I feel like I'm having like this weird brain fart on this Sunday afternoon. C is in Christ. J is in Jesus. C is in Christ. O is in ostrich. U is in uranium. C is in Christ. H is in horses. T is in tantalizing. A is in ass. L is in labia. K as in kaboom. That's how you spell CJ Couch Talk. That was a much better take right there. I'm going to leave the rest of this Bluff God beat with you. Go check him out at the Producer Clout Podcast, searching BLUFFGAWD and then Producer Clout CLOUT. That's it. I love everybody so much. Game of Thrones finale is tonight, but it's Monday, so it's already happened. Let me know what you think. I'll be doing a Cast of Thrones to wrap up the end of an era. I love everybody so much. Go watch Chernobyl. I'm going to go do a smoke break right now to give you some weekend content. So if you're one of the listeners only, go over to YouTube, subscribe to Couch Talk, and watch me do a bunch of smoke breaks, because that's what we do over here, Couch Talk content. I love everybody so much, and I will talk to you next time. Love you.